Hello, this is the Era of Zara YouTube channel, and I'm Tom. I'm here to talk to you today about my thoughts on the How I Met Your Mother series finale. I know that the finale originally aired on March 31st, 2014. This is the end of August 2014, and I'm purposely making this video at this time because when I first saw the episodes, I was pretty upset about it, and I thought that if I just let it go, I know that a lot of people were upset about it, and I thought if I let it go, let it sink in for a while, that my opinion would change, that maybe it wouldn't be as bad as I thought it was, because it was kind of all that build-up and everything, but it hasn't. It's actually gotten worse, and it's gotten so bad that I actually have problems watching a lot of the episodes of How I Met Your Mother again on Netflix or something, because the end, knowing what the end is and where the characters end up, the entire show takes on a completely different connotation, as well as I just can't watch it with the same enjoyment, because I just know that the ending is going to be so bad that the show really takes a hit on everything else that you've had the run up to. It's pretty horrible. I mean, it lets it down and kind of undermines itself in such a way that that it's all really the entire 8 years before are kind of a facade. So anyway, I'll kind of go over that today. For those of you, because it has been 6 months, and I know that they're about to release the Series 9 and the final season on Blu-ray soon, which supposedly will have a second ending version, as well as about 18 minutes of unseen footage. So we'll see if that changes everything, but we can't change what was aired on television already. So in the series finale, they flash back to 2005, when probably sometime between episodes 1 and 2, where Robin is introduced to the rest of the group by Ted. Marshall, Barney, and Lily all meet her. They like her. Robin, optimistic about potentially having a woman friend finally, says that neither Barney or Ted can sleep with Robin unless they plan on marrying her. Barney kind of gives it a kind of as he used to and everything like that. And then they fast forward to the wedding, and Robin and Barney are dancing at the wedding, and Lily and Barney and Ted Lily, Marshall, and Ted are all smiling and kind of, everyone's kind of happy and at peace, and Lily's just kind of like, oh, I can't believe he did it, but he really did it. And then Barney recognizes the bass player and says, hey, because he had met her already. And what I thought was interesting about this season is that it does take place over the wedding weekend with some flashbacks and flash forwards. I didn't mind that format so much. There were episodes where it got kind of tiresome, but for the most part I liked it. And I liked the idea that the mother had been met by everybody first other than Ted, and that Ted's the last one, so that Barney had met the mother way before anyone else did, and that the mother was kind of the one that kind of told, because Barney hit on her, tried to pick her up, and then the mother kind of gave him some tough love as a stranger, and kind of got him to go to say, like, do you really want to keep playing the game of womanizing, or do you want to win the game? And that's why he comes up with the Robin, which is the final page of the original playbook, which is how he gets Robin to fall in love with him and marry, so that he wins. And so anywho, he recognizes the bass player as that woman that he met a long time ago, and he says, oh, I do have a guy who I think you would be good for, and he wants to introduce Ted to her, but Ted says no because he's leaving town for Chicago the next day. They have a very tearful goodbye scene between Ted and the other main four. Lily and Ted have a very cute E.T. phone home goodbye. Barney and Ted have the highest of fives, the Infinity Five. Robin and Marshall both have their goodbyes with Ted, and Ted goes to the train station. The train is late, so he starts talking to the elderly woman that we saw at the beginning of season 9 about the story of the wedding. And then he looks up and sees the mother standing there. The next night, the night after the wedding, Lily and Marshall go down to the bar for a drink, as they would now after the wedding, and they see Ted at the bar, and they're really upset. And they're just like, Ted says, oh yeah, I'm not going to Chicago, that's not going to happen, I met somebody. And they're like, and then Marshall's kind of like, oh my God, he's doing it again. I can't believe it. And then Ted gets a phone call from the mother, and then he's on the phone with her, and Marshall's like, man, how many times is he going to fall in love and get his heart broken? I mean, this happens every time. And Lily's looking at Ted and she goes, my God, this is something different. He's never fallen in love like this. This is someone different. This could be different than everyone else, even Robin. So they move forward. They flash forward ahead into into 2015. Ted, now engaged, meets Robin and Barney at McLaren's. He's engaged to the mother. Robin goes to buy drinks, and Barney starts to give the first seeds that his marriage is in trouble because Robin's traveling all out. She's kind of like a Diane Sawyer going across the world, doing extensive interviews, and doesn't have time for Barney anymore. And that Barney, while still staying faithful, is getting tired of the situation. Mother arrives to say that they can't get married in the castle that Ted always wants to and everything like that in this big fairy tale wedding because she's pregnant, which Ted is overjoyed about. In 2016, after Marshall and Lily get back from their European extravaganza, Marshall is back in corporate law, which he hates, and Barney and Robin revealed to the group that they got divorced. After 3 years. And this is in the first 15 minutes of the show, of the finale, that they had gotten divorced. So everything that we've spent since 2009, or since season 3 in 2009, has all kind of been for nothing. But we'll get to that in a minute. They fast forward to May of 2016, when they host a get-together. That's the get-together. And then Barney discovers that Lily's pregnant for the third time with another baby. They do have, a few months later, they have a Halloween party at the old apartment where Marshall and Lily decide they have to move again because they need space for their 3 children. It's really cute because there's a lot of good callbacks about Marshall and Lily always having their matching costumes. Ted shows up in his hanging Chad outfit again, except that this time the mother is dressed in a Gore Lieberman shirt. So it's really cute callback, and you just see how that they're really kind of quite perfect for each other. Robin shows up, and it's been a long time since they've seen Robin. It feels like she's kind of left the group because of the divorce and traveling, so it's just she's the one that is just kind of taking a step back from everybody. They're so overjoyed to see her, but then Barney has gone back to being a womanizer after his divorce and kind of playing the field again. And this upsets Robin. She's upset because she sees Ted with his fiance and the future mother of his child, and she's jealous and she doesn't know how to feel about that, so she leaves. And Lily and Robin have a very tearful goodbye when Robin says, I don't want to be a part of the group anymore. I can't. I'm not there's unresolved feelings for Ted. I don't fit in anymore. I'm leaving. And it's really kind of a sad moment. And then fast forward a few years into 2018 where they're having a legendary night. They got Ted and Lily and Marshall to get sitters so that they could stay out late. And Marshall comes in and says, they all plan on leaving at 9:45, but Marshall gets a phone call and it says that he's going to be chosen to be a judge in Queens. So they have a big celebration. Barney tries to pick up on a woman like usual, and Lily yells at him and kind of gives him guff saying, you're too old for this, and blah, blah, blah. Why can't you ever grow up? And Barney kind of defends himself and says, listen, I am who I am. I tried being different with Robin, and if Robin couldn't make me any different, who could? Because, there is no one like Robin. So she was so perfect for me, and we couldn't make it work. No one, just let me be who I want to be. I'll never be the guy who says, I love you, everything is yours in the world, you can have everything I am and everything I have is yours forever. He's never going to be like that. In 2019, they're at Robots vs. Wrestlers, another callback, but without Robin. But Barney, the mother, Ted, Marshall, and Lily are there. And Barney comes in and says that he has had the perfect month, which is 30 days, 30 scores. And the last girl is pregnant. And he doesn't know what to do. And they are at the birth, they fast forward 9 months and they're at the birth of Barney's child. Barney's kind of freaking out. He's still kind of not fully come to grips with the fact he's going to be a father. He's dismissive. He keeps calling her number 31, I think, or number 30, because he doesn't bother to know the woman's name. And then he gets brought in to meet the daughter. And in a very beautiful scene, Barney meets his daughter for the first time, and Neil Patrick Harris is a father now of young kids, so he clearly was just probably bringing in a bit of what he felt like when he held his children for the first time. But he's brought to tears, and he says what he said to Lily a couple years ago, which is, everything I have, everything I own, everything that I am is yours forever. But he really means it, because he's fallen in love at first sight with his daughter, Ellie. Then they fast forward to Ted proposing. Back 5 years. So Ted and the mother have had 2 children. They've still never gotten married. They've been engaged for 5 years. Ted proposes and says, we're getting married Thursday. The wedding, the gang meet up at McLaren's right before the wedding. Barney and the mother has called Robin and told her to come, because they haven't seen Robin in years. They kind of have a beautiful reconciliation. Robin and Barney have a meeting. Ted is overwhelmed by the fact that Robin has shown up for this, and everyone seems to be pretty happy. Barney actually has a moment where he talks to Robin about, you're a dad, and he says, yeah, she's wonderful. I'm tired all the time, but she's great. And he says the line, Daddy's home, and it just has a very beautiful meaning to it, because he's truly happy. I mean, it is a little bit weird, like they never really explain what happens with the woman who had the child. Does Barney have full custody? Did the woman leave and drop the kid off? Maybe it's in that 18 minutes. Do they share custody? Who's the mother? But that's something later on. So they get married in a beautiful ceremony. They have a toast where Lily kind of praises Ted for being true to himself and not waiting for the love of his life, and to never have stopped looking, even though it's been really terrible. And then this is where the show really falls apart, is that Ted has the voiceover where he says, Lily was right, and I knew that when I met the mother that I always had to love her for every day, because everything I have was hers, and I loved her deeply, and I loved her even when she got sick. And you don't even see, you just see her in the hospital and he's reading to her, and we had kind of already had the seed planted in other episode fast forwards that Ted was sad about going to revisit all these old places they had been, and that she dies. I mean, the mother is dying and she dies. They return to the story in 2013, where they're on the platform. Ted and who we learn the mother's name is Tracy, where they meet under the yellow umbrella. They talk about the Econ 305. They talk about the umbrella. They talk about being Cindy's roommate. All those weird things that we had learned over the last 8 years. How is that really? How are they going to make that all fit? They do it very convincingly, which is in a very beautiful scene, Emmy-worthy, I think, of both Kristen Milioti and Josh Radnor. That was a very beautiful scene, very hard to do, very well done, very charming, lovely. That's where I thought the show should have ended. The show doesn't. He says, kids, that's how I met your mother, and then they fast forward to the 2030 kids, and they're saying, no, the point of this was not about Mom. She's barely in it. This is all about Aunt Robin. And Ted kind of goes, no, it's about your mom, right? And the kids say, no, they love Aunt Robin. And he's like, this is all about Aunt Robin and the fact that you still love her, and we love Aunt Robin, and you're asking for our permission to go date her, and we think you should. And they give Ted their blessing, and then Ted shows up to Robin's apartment with the blue French horn the same way he did 25 years ago, and that's the end of the show. That's the summary of the show. Okay, so on paper, I think that series finale makes a lot of sense. Friends get married, they move away, careers can break up marriages, old friends lose sight of each other, lose connections with each other, old loves can come back into your lives and rekindle. Sometimes your marriage or your friendships end because of an early death. All of that technically makes sense on paper, but when it's translated to the screen, sometimes something gets lost in translation, especially when you have 8 years of other things fighting against that. So the Barney and Robin relationship has gone on again, off again, in Ross-Rachel kind of a thing since season 3. But what's different about Ross and Rachel is that, one, Ross and Rachel ended up together. And some people can compare Barney and Robin to Ross and Ted and Robin to Ross and Rachel, and that's not the same either, because although Ross got married several times and had children with other people, the child that he had was one Rachel and also his first wife Carol. So the other thing was too is that it just it kind of tries to be like that, but it just doesn't work, because this is Ross, this is the Ross and Rachel story, while at the same time being the Rachel and Joey story at the same time, going back and forth. And it just wouldn't have worked on Friends when they tried to do it, and it doesn't work here on How I Met Your Mother when they did do it. Barney and Robin were perfect for each other because they fit together. They were both kind of broken souls in some ways. They were very guarded and very jaded about what they wanted. They were career-driven, money-driven. They knew what they wanted in life. They didn't want children, and they weren't really afraid to admit it. And you saw the beginnings of this in season 1 when Robin serves as Barney's wingman when Ted is out on a date, and she suits up. They have cigars and scotch and play laser tag, and Barney when Barney wants to hook up with Robin and Robin's offended, he goes, "No, this makes total sense. We both want A, B, C, and D, and we don't want long-term commitments. We want to be fun with each other. We just want to be something casual," and it does work. And when both of them kind of at different times want a relationship, they eventually meet up, and like a puzzle, they just fit together. Apart, they're broken, not really complete, but together they worked. Also, Robin couldn't have kids, which is something that Ted wanted, so we'll get to that in a second. Ted has shown time and again that the mother, and has said, and the show has shown, that the mother is very different than every woman that Ted ever dated or fell in love with. Throughout the 8 years of the show, Ted, before he met the mother, had 4 serious relationships. Victoria, the baker, Robin, Stella, and Zoe. Victoria, he met at the end of season 1, was the baker. She actually was, if the show had gotten canceled in season 2, was supposed to be the mother. Or they had said was the original mother plan. But when the show got continued past season 2, they scrapped that idea. But the problem with Victoria, she was jealous of Robin. Always was going to be jealous of Robin, always will be. She was always jealous of Robin, no matter what. He chose Robin over her in season 1. He chose Robin over her in season 8. He was just always going to be... she was always going to come second fiddle to Robin, and she, to her credit, Victoria's credit, was not okay with that, and good for her. Robin, the problem with Robin is she didn't want kids. She didn't want to settle down. She didn't want that. She wanted to be a career woman. She wanted to be the alpha in that scenario. And although Ted wouldn't mind being the stay-at-home type to a certain extent, she didn't want children, and that was a deal breaker for her. And for him. And they should have broken up, because that was not what they wanted, and the kids would have been born at some point. Well, actually, they didn't know that Robin couldn't have children at that time, and it just wouldn't have been. It would have gone badly for everyone. Stella was still in love with somebody else, and then Zoe, who he stole from the captain. Ted was her rebound and kind of a fantasy, and that was just never going to last. The mother was perfect for Ted because she loved him for who he was. She loved him, and that he loved her for who she was. There were no unrealistic expectations. They wanted the same things. They had the same interests. The Renaissance fair, as they said, crosswords, calligraphy, other things. They were just perfect for each other. And that's why the show was always... That's how the show excused the fact that he was just always dating people, and why they kept us going for so long was that he was not going to settle for less. He was going to wait for the one. He believed in the one. He was going to wait for the one. I mean, the show is called How I Met Your Mother, and they just, in this finale, throw her under the bus really, really early in a way that is really kind of sad. She is beautifully played by Kristen Milioti, and, her character... We have episodes in season 9 where you get to know her a bit, fast forwards, flashbacks. There's an episode, the 200th episode, is all about the mother, and you learn a lot about her. And then they throw her under the bus, figuratively, and kill her in the show, in 47 minutes. And it's really kind of, it's cheap, and I think it's kind of sad. And I understand that the writers had boxed themselves into a corner because the scene with Ted and the young children after he's done telling the story, the back and forth about Aunt Robin and the kids, that was filmed in fall of '06. So from the end of season 1, they knew that the mother was going to be dead and that he would end up with Robin at some point, which is also irritating because why did they put us through all that if they just knew he was going to end up with Robin in the end? Robin, I mean, really the mother becomes nothing more than like kind of just a surrogate kind of a thing because Robin can't have children and Ted wants them and she's physically unable. I mean, really the mother is just kind of a surrogate to have the kids that Ted's always wanted. And the fact that he likes her and stuff like that is convenient, but like they really just have reduced her to just being essentially just a surrogate mother. And it's really terrible because they told us she was so much more and that she was perfect for him, they were soulmates, and that their love was so much different and better and fuller than anything else he had ever had. And then Kristen Milioti, let's talk about her as the mother. She was quite honestly perfect. I loved her as the mother. And that's not easy. After 8 years of build-up and expectations, they found a way to bring in a woman and write her in a way, and she played it beautifully, that was believable, charming, funny, heartwarming, and you believe that this woman was better for Ted than anyone else we had ever met before, and that they were meant to be together. And I really enjoyed her, and I didn't think they used her enough, and I think that it could have been better. And I know that they had written themselves into kind of a corner, or that they wanted something different, something shocking, something unique about the story. Personally, I would have ended the story on the train platform where they meet, and then having the voiceover of Bob Saget saying, "Kids, that's how I met your mother." That's where I would have ended the show. They chose not to do that. If they did want to kill off somebody to be different, I think that they should have killed Ted. I really do. Or have him be like going through dementia or Alzheimer's, and he wanted to tell this story to his children, teach them a lesson, and that it would have been, if they wanted to end it with him dying or him being terminally ill or something, they could have said that, teaching his children that, listen, love is worth fighting for, it's worth waiting for, it's worth not settling for something less, and to believe in love, and whether that's love through marriage, through children, or through friendship, there are all different kinds of love, and all of them are important, and that you should wait for it, because you're worth it, and so is love. That's, if they were going to do that kind of a message, of even killing off the mother, of just saying, I just can't believe they went back to Robin at the end. That's just terrible. I mean, because that's the thing. Even if they killed her off, that's fine. If he had just kind of said, like, she was the great love of my life, she was worth waiting for, I didn't get to spend as much time with her as I wanted, but the time that I did spend with her was absolutely worth it. The years I spent looking for her from 2005 to 2008 were worth it because I had to learn a lot about myself. I had to learn that love wasn't that although a person isn't perfect, love, what's perfect is that imperfect connection you have with somebody, and that even someone like Robin or Victoria or Stella or Zoe, who he all loved, there was something wrong about it that just was the reason it would never work. And that if you got married and it didn't, and that when it does work, even though they're not perfect, they fight or whatever like that, but when it does work, you get something like Marshall and Lily. If there is still something nagging, something wrong, and it's just, even though how hard you try, there's always going to be an issue that's under the surface, it'll fall apart like Robin and Barney, and that it's not, and that you need to fight for, you need to wait for the one, don't settle, and that you need to believe in yourself and believe that there's somebody out there, whether it's friends or your future children or a spouse, that will love you for who you are and that will share your life with. And I thought that would have been really pretty and a really beautiful ending. They chose to go that different route. A lot of people are upset about it. I didn't like it. And what's really tragic is I should get over it, but I still can't watch a lot of the show now in reruns because it doesn't matter. Everything is undermined. Everything doesn't, nothing in no plot development outside of Marshall and Lily matters because we know what's going to happen. Ted's going to end up with Robin, the mother's dead, and Barney's going to be a dad and, dedicating his life to his kid, which is cute. And Marshall and Lily are going to be the 3 kids living in the suburbs. Him a judge, she's an art person. and a teacher, and everyone's going to end up somewhat happy except for the mother because she'll be dead. It just doesn't play out the same way anymore. I mean, it just doesn't play out the same way. So it's just kind of a wasted opportunity. You look at something like Breaking Bad, which I think was a wonderful ending to a finale ending to a series. I thought the Star Trek Next Generation was very, very good. I even thought Frasier was pretty good. Cheers was fantastic. Lost was terrible. Dexter was bad. How I Met Your Mother was bad. Friends was pretty good. So we've seen that it can be done, but I don't know. It was pretty weak. I knew that they had written themselves into a corner, but they could choose not to use the kids' video from before, or cut it differently, or not use it at all, or voice over it or refilm it. I don't know. They could have done a multitude of different things, but they did what they did. A lot of people, including myself, were unhappy about it, and hopefully in the 9th season DVD set, there's that different ending that supposedly they've recut scenes so that it has a happier ending for Ted and Tracy. The extra 18 minutes should be good because apparently they filmed the funeral scene, they filmed some other things that would have made it maybe easier to watch with her dying, because she dies in this montage. You don't ever see a funeral, you don't ever see any grieving, it's just over. Matter of fact, and it cheapens the character. It cheats her out of her character development and her job well done. Anywho, let me know what you think. I've let it sit for 5 months and it's been festering in my head. Still not happy with the way it ended. Hopefully, some other folks can get over it easier than I have been able to. Let me know your thoughts. Subscribe to our channel. Claire and I, my friend, do movie reviews. I also have some comic book stuff on there if you're interested in that. Thanks for watching, and until next time, see you later.